the media's disgusting gaslighting of America. That is where we begin today before the EJs join us in one moment. We were gaslit on President Joe Biden's mental acuity for years. As recently as March, we had MSNBC telling us this was the best Joe Biden ever, most cognitively fit, better than ever, and then they were exposed at that debate, but the lie was never acknowledged. They just moved on. Same for Vice President Kamala Harris. She defended the president as totally fine, mentally robust even, for years. Never came clean, just quietly subbed in for him, and 3 weeks later hasn't said one word about any of it. The same media is now telling us Harris is suddenly a wordsmith, someone who speaks with merry conviction, has social warmth. And that was from the Wall Street Journal. Imagine what the left is saying about her. And is tougher. She's tougher than the guy who just got shot in the face and rose up with a fist pump. The same media is telling us that those two Olympic boxers who won gold medals this weekend did not test XY and are in fact female. But they did test XY and they are male. The International Boxing Association is on record through its doctor saying as much. And now we've had the former NBC and LA Times reporter, Alan Abramson, come forward and verify earlier reports that he personally saw the test results and they showed male. Similarly, Megyn Kelly, the one boxer from Algeria, his trainer, has revealed, reports Redux Mag, that a French hospital found a problem with Khalif's chromosomes and that Khalif was well aware he, quote, might not be a girl. This, as a commissioner of the Spanish Boxing League comes forward to reveal that Khalif was considered too dangerous for women to fight in Spain, saying, quote, whoever we put Khalif with was injured, end quote, and that they had to pair Khalif with one of Spain's top male boxers before finding an even match for Khalif. Even the IOC, which had been maintaining that these two boxers were female based on their passport identifications as female, appeared to give up the game this weekend, saying, quote, it is not as easy as some may now want to portray it, that the XX or the XY is the clear distinction between the men and the women. This is scientifically not true anymore. And therefore, these two are women. They're not. You got XY, you're male. And these two have XY, according to more sources now than I can count. And a woman is going to get killed if we keep allowing this. This same media is telling us that Governor Tim Walz did not quit the National Guard in order to avoid going to Iraq, that he filed his paperwork to quit the Guard before he got any notice that he was being deployed. That's not true either. We know for a fact that Mr. Walz was told he would be getting deployed in March of 2005. There was a notice saying it's coming. And his office publicly circulated that notice at the time. We've seen it. But a commander from his unit told CNN over the weekend that it actually was earlier than that Mr. Walz and the unit knew, the commanders, well before Walz filed any papers to run for Congress, that they were going out. They were about to get deployed, and that notice came as early as the fall of 2004. In any event, Walz did not quit the Guard until May 2005. That was 3 months after the written notice that he'd likely be going. And it's true that while the final official deployment notice didn't come until July, Walz knew well before July that he was likely going to Iraq with his unit, and there's no question that he quit anyway. Everything else is revisionist history, all right? He quit knowing they were about to be deployed. That is a fact. The same media telling us that he made a mistake when he exaggerated his rank in the National Guard repeatedly, something he continues to do. That he misspoke when he claimed he served in war, which he didn't. That he misspoke again when he said or allowed others to say that he served in Operation Enduring Freedom, meaning the war in Afghanistan, which he didn't. He misspeaks a lot and always in one direction. This same dishonest partisan hack media is telling us that Governor Walz did not make Minnesota a refuge for kids with gender confusion, that he did not sign a law allowing young children to come to Minnesota fleeing their parents who do not wish for them to cut off their healthy genitals, that he did not allow courts to take custody of these young, confused children and allow minors to sterilize and mutilate themselves away from their loving parents. But he did. He did exactly that. And finally, they're telling us that Tim Walz did not sign a law mandating tampons in all grades 4 through 12 bathrooms, including the boys' bathrooms. Except he did, and there's no doubt about it. A woman named Jill Burkham with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, a hack paper dedicated to helping Democrats, wrote a piece over the weekend trying to argue that because the law has not yet been followed in one large school district in Minnesota, instead they're putting tampons only in their gender neutral and their girls' rooms, that the law must not include the mandate it says it does. I have news for you, Jill. The fact that a district is ignoring the law does not invalidate the law itself. And if a trans student sued that school district tomorrow for noncompliance, they'd win. The law says tampons must be made available to menstruating students in all bathrooms used by kids in grades 4 through 12. Republicans tried to amend the bill to limit the language to only girls' bathrooms. That amendment was defeated. The sponsor of the law said, quote, trans boys, meaning girls pretending to be boys, need tampons too, and therefore sanitary products must be placed in the boys' rooms.
So the products must be available to all menstruating students. I think there was some discussion earlier about boys' bathrooms. And would that allow a school district, at least especially in the elementary age, to not have to put these products into the boys' bathroom?
This bill requires that schools provide free period products in all student bathrooms grades 4 through 12. Trans boys menstruate, and they use boys' bathrooms and would need these products. In order to ensure that all menstruating students have full access to period products, it is important that we include them in all bathrooms where trans students who menstruate may need to access them.
Okay. That woman won the argument, and now the law is perfectly clear. The mandate is unambiguous. And while Jill points to a clause that says a plan must be developed by the school district for the implementation of the law, that does not allow the law to be ignored. Jill, let me give you a little legal lesson. That's not how laws work. You don't say, here's a mandate, but then you can totally ignore the mandate if you want to ignore the mandate. Implementation speaks to how the law will be complied with. For example, what amount of tampons to put in the boys' rooms versus the girls' rooms. This was specifically debated as the law was under consideration with an understanding that the boys' rooms could have fewer supplies. But whether to comply with the mandate is not up for debate. It's a law. Tampons to any menstruating student in all bathrooms 4 through 12. And Minnesota believes trans boys menstruate, that they use boys' bathrooms, and those bathrooms must stock up on Tampax. By the way, so offended was Star Tribune reporter Jill Burkham with my reporting that she encouraged yours truly to try doing some journalism. I guess to come up with a misleading, legally misguided report just like hers. Maybe I'll do that, Jill, and become a reporter just like you, who no one has ever heard of doing partisan hack journalism for a dishonest paper that has endorsed nothing but Democratic presidential candidates for the last 40 years. To be clear, you needn't even be a reporter to figure out how this law works. Being able to read and understand a statute is sufficient. Maybe Jill can't do that because she's not an attorney, but I can, and the law is clear. It's a mandate. As for Jill and her stellar journalism advice, I think I'm going to pass. We decided to pull some of Jill's very journalism-y musings for the Star Tribune editorial board on which she sits, and I got to say, I'm slightly doubtful about Jill's objectivity. Just a few examples. She and her board urged Trump to quit the presidential race back in 2016, lamented the overwhelmingly white jury in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, which involved a white man shooting other white men who attacked him, applauded the Trump farce fraud verdict handed down by Judge Engoron, suggesting the Trumps have no conscience and that voters in November should be guided by Judge Engoron's use of the term pathological when it comes to Trump. She and her pals called Trump a disgrace after the business records case conviction, celebrated the label of convicted felon, and chastised voters who still plan to vote for Trump. See, Jill knows better. In the COVID madness, Jill and her colleagues defended mask mandates, begged for booster shots, and as recently as 2022, Jill personally expressed a vague hope that maybe someday, this is 2022, someday, quote, with vigilance, COVID-19 will be more manageable. But for the time being, encouraged vaccinating, boosting, masking up again, switching over to remote work, putting other mitigation measures back in place. She and her paper backed DEI in Minnesota schools, naturally. Such an objective journalist doing so much journalisming. As soon as Walz was picked by Harris, Jill and her board buds celebrated the choice, writing, "Walz makes the ticket." Good. Then Jill personally tweeted a link to the Harris campaign's lies about Trump supposedly blessing Tim Walz's handling of the Minneapolis riots, commenting, "Well then, Jill, what happened to the journalism? That was a fake news report. Or were you too busy trying to find a school district blowing off the tampon mandate to do some real reporting on what happened in your own state?" On August 6th, she tweeted this about Walz's first campaign speech. "Oh, Walz went there with the couch reference. So fun, and what a moment to celebrate and circulate, Jill. Tim Walz, for whom it appears lying is a signature move, lies again, but it's so fun because it makes J.D. Vance look bad. Did you journalism there, Jill? Did you report that this was a disgusting smear? You know, like you did on all the Tim Walz stuff that was actually true? Didn't see it. Maybe it's still coming. I'll wait." The point here is not to pick on some sad little lady whose Democrat dreams may be endangered by her hero Tim Walz's far-left policies. The point is Jill and her paper and this disgusting, enabling, lying, partisan hack media are gaslighting us all on so many important issues. And there is no choice for those of us who can still report truthfully, who, one, are able to do that, capable of doing that, and two, have the platforms to do so, that we must do so all the time, no matter what. Some Americans enjoy using their credit cards because it can be a hassle-free and secure way to pay. But our sponsor, the American Payments Coalition, says that some DC politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. They say the bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. They say corporate megastores will make more money and you will wind up paying the price. Find out more info at guardyourcard.com and consider telling Congress to guard your card while you're there, too. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.